Hello, everyone, and welcome to Blue Star Rising, the Templar Awakening, and Merry Christmas and joyful Holy Season to all of our dear friends and listeners, viewers. And this is our special Christmas message that Maia is going to share with us, the message for 2021 coming up. So good morning, Maia. How are you doing?
Just fine, a little chilly, but other than that, great.
Well, you're chilly, but wearing that stylish white fur coat, looking like you're ready to go to some festive Christmas gathering.
Yeah. Well, I watched the two Christmas chronicles with a Goldie and her fella, and they were so good. So I got in the Christmas mood.
With Goldie?
Goldie Hawn and
Oh,
yeah,
Kurt Russell?
Kurt Russell. Yeah, I couldn't think of his name.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I hadn't watched the one last year, so I watched them both. And I thought, well, it's going to be kiddie-like, it's not Santa Claus. But no, it was really good. I enjoyed both of them. Yeah, because
cool.
Goldie and Kurt made it. They really put it.
Wow. Well, so the message for 2020, that you shared last year was, as you say, a little mysterious at the time. Let's cast ourselves back in time, if we can, to a year ago. In December of 2019, COVID was, it was just kind of a rumor, and it was a story on the periphery of the news out of China, and many other things that have since come upon us were undreamed of, and really the stuff of nightmares that we wouldn't have really given any credence to. And the message of 2020, in terms of the exposure that would unfold, and the confusion and the inability of many to receive or understand, or even being willing to look at what was being revealed, would become very apparent. And also, I remember particularly that passage in the message last year about the little light that would be disregarded at first, but that would grow and grow and become a guiding luminary. And it feels to me like that light leads right into the message that you've recently received for 2021. And of course, it's being Christmas Eve, the story of a star, of a light, coming to us, that if we can tune in with it, can help transform and uplift our hearts, and thereby possibly the consciousness of all of humanity. So, yeah, this is we have a wonderful video to share with you. It's one of the longer ones, but we're going to explore it in advance before we share it with you. And so, Maia, do you just want to? I'm going to read aloud the message, the Thoth'S message you received, in just a moment here. Is there anything you'd like to say about what you feel the theme, the essential theme of the message is?
Yes. Well, there's some mysterious parts to it that were not revealed to me, but the white crystal star, had been something that I had brought through from Thoth in 2012. And when he mentioned it again here, then he said, when you make this video, because I was just planning to make the video, with just the message, a little activational video, 6 minutes long or something. He really wanted me to include the transmission he gave me, the article transmission on the white crystal star after the message was given. and go into that a little bit. Talk about how that relates to what's happening next, let's say, and not just all encapsulated in 2021, but beginning to be on the radar in our, at least in the cosmic Earth spectrum for us in 2021, in our holographic field.
Right. Well, let me read the text of the message aloud, and we'll explore it a little bit before we go into the video that Maya has prepared for us today. So this is the message for 2021. From the mouth of 2020 shall be spoken the birthing syllables of 2021. While the active child does not stray far from its mother's skirts, within the depths of the soul, a prophecy is fulfilled in the quickening of the three pillars on Mars and the three stars in the belt of Orion, the three universes, positive, negative, and neutral. As the pillars awaken on the dead planet, life will spring forth in a new heaven, preparing the way for the new earth. Yet the reality continues to be embraced by the mass consciousness on earth that all is torn and trampled beneath a giant's gate. Thus the importance of those with eyes to see and ears to hear, they must adjust the dial of their thinking to a new station. This station is to be amplified through the three pillars or towers, opening communion of worlds on a level of pure receipt. There will be great trepidation among the doers of evil and those caught in between their revolving doors. For they will not know what the light senders give forth out of the darkness. The doers of evil and their following from among all races and belief systems will come to a standstill, as if frozen in time. But this moment will pass. They will then emerge as a chaotic army with no general to lead them on the field. Their will becomes broken, yet they continue an automation of their deeds, running in circles until they wind down. For those who listen to the signal of the light senders, their path shall be one of victory for the soul. Many mansions will be made known to them through the mouthpiece of the white crystal star. Yeah, so that is, particularly compelling for me when I think about what it says about the, the followers of evil being a chaotic army without a general to lead them, and running here and there in chaos. It reminds me of a passage from Lord of the Rings in the third book, where at the moment when the One Ring is cast into the fires of Mount Doom, and meanwhile, at the gates of Mordor, the armies of the West, vastly outnumbered by huge multitudes of orcs, are following through their part to try to keep the attention of the enemy focused on them so that Frodo and Sam have a chance to fulfill their mission of destroying the ring. And so the ring goes into the fire. And the spirit of Sauron, the Dark Lord, is crippled, and the Dark Tower falls. You see, it's like in the movie you see. Here we the tower falls and the burning eye explodes and Mount Doom erupts into volcanic flame, and Frodo and Sam run out and throw themselves on a rock and barely escape. And meanwhile, the armies of the West behold the multitudes of orcs who have been driven by the will of the dark power that leads them. Suddenly bereft of will, like dance in a hill when the swollen thing in the center that is their compelling, controlling force, when that dies, suddenly they will wander witless and feeble and shrivel up in time. I mean, that there is this sweeping away of some, controlling dark energy, that while there will still be leftover remnants, like you say, like an automaton sort of running through their programs, they will wind down. They will, because the driving force of controlling darkness, shall we say, that drives them, will have vanished, disappeared, and dissolved, however you want to express it. And that then, the light is truly blossoming. Does that resonate for you with what you're sharing here?
Oh, yes, very much so. With the white star, and I don't want to give too much away because you really need to, follow the progression of it in the video. But this is a demarcation point. You see, everything that we do, whether we're good guys, in between guys, or bad guys, anything we do, the dance of life, the dance of spirit, is all interwoven with a template that has been created through consensual reality, partly cosmic sacred geometry, let's call it, with the astrology and all of that, and then of course with the pulsing of the Mother Earth in the central sun atonement. So you have a combination there. And when you have evil running amok through human beings, no human being is evil, but evil can thrive in a broken spirit, when you have that archonic presence moving through a particular strand or field, it's like a hive of ants, or a nest of ants, or a hive of bees. Not, I'm going to say bees. I'm not going to put bees in this. I love bees. Let's say hornets. They're very aggressive, and it has a central mind, and the central mind is caused by this agitation of protection, self-preservation, and greed, in a sense. I mean, animals aren't greedy, but there's a trigger there. I must get as much as I can so I can live as long as I can and breed as much as I can. That's the ants and the hornets. So I mean, they're not evil or anything, I'm not saying that, but that's that instinct. Well, if you take the archonic cloud, it's like a virus. Those speak to the long before our curtain situation. Those referred to the archonic cloud as a virus. And so when it infiltrates the broken spirits, that's what it sets up. It sets up a communal hive of energy, of frequency, of survival, getting more, surviving longer. They don't really think in terms, these humans who are imbued so completely with this, what Thoth calls archonic investiture, they don't think really that they're going to die. I mean, they do on one level intellectually, but they think, I will last forever. As long as I do this, I will keep going. I will keep going. I will keep going. So that kind of energy is built upon, actually, I mean, everything we do is built upon a sacred program that's established by, as I said, the stars, the consensual reality, Gaia, all working together to create some kind of a program. Well, what if somebody switches the program? They turn off the lights on that program and they turn on the lights on another program very seamlessly. But the new program is at a higher spiritual evolutionary state. Now, all of us are going to go a little bit like, let's see now. I was over here. What was I doing? It's almost like we're going to have to work with it, all of us, because we're all challenged in that way. But those that are archonically invested, they're going to go freaking nuts. And that's not good in the short term, but what's going to happen is they will have no program. They will have no general. And we're going to have to go through this. But as we do, that winds down. It just winds down, because they have no place to hang their hat, for that, what a communal state that they have to have in order to survive. Now, I'm not trying to say they're all a bunch of zombies. No, I'm not saying that. They're human beings with souls, okay? They're inspirited on some level of being, but it's become so encrusted. They brought it down into a little black ball inside them, and inside that little black ball is that spirit spark of God. So the idea is that all of this has to break up. And finally that little spark said, hallelujah, I'm free. So that's kind of how it has to work. And I don't know how long that's going to take. But in the meanwhile, Thoth is asking us to tune in to the light, this new light sender's vibration, whatever that is, coming through the pillars of Mars, and which is opening the door for the white crystal star, which you'll hear about exactly what that is. And that, it's a birthing frequency. It forms a new, template for our existence on this planet. Now, it's not all happening in 2021. We'd all go crazy if that happened. But that's when it's really starting to take hold, because that's when the pillars start to become activated and be able to bring that signal through to us from the light senders. And, all of this could happen in a graceful moment of epiphany, but it doesn't, does it? Because we're so encrusted. All of us are encrusted. The planet has not been able to reach that signal. So we're getting help. And these pillars were created eons ago. And I know there's been some bad stuff going on Mars in the past too, but apparently these pillars were made of light, so to speak, as the ones on the moon were, and as the ones in the inner Earth are. So that I've written about in the past. So I think I've said enough at this point. Well,
okay, just a quick little side thing while we're talking about that. The phenomenon of the monoliths showing up around the planet, and the question of whether, it's kind of similar to the way crop circles were viewed, in terms of, okay, it's a hoax, okay, it's a bunch of pranksters, okay, well now they disappeared. And yet, the sudden, there are those who are saying, well, these are meant to be activational. Do you see any connection between the three pillars? It's a very classic 2001 Space Odyssey image,
right.
Of course.
Of course.
No, there's the pillar, and then suddenly there's high pitched, and all the apes go ape.
Yeah.
Do you see any correlation with?
Oh yeah. And I actually probably should have put that in the, there was a lot of things I could put in the video, but it was already nearly 30 minutes long, so I didn't. But first of all, when I asked Thoth, okay, I know you want to give me this message early, because usually I get it just before New Year's Eve, like a day before, 2 days before. But this time I knew he wanted me to get it early so we could do a Christmas show and present it. Why early? I don't know, but that was what I received. So I was a little concerned. I had a lot of stuff to do, and I want to make sure to do it right. And I wasn't getting the message, So the other night, I'm in bed and I'm saying, okay, so I don't want to get all the message now because I need to sleep. Will you give me a hint just so I know I've got an inroad to this message? And I saw these two giant pillars, and I knew it was on Mars. I just got Mars, here's the pillars, and I'm going, Mars? You want me to talk about Mars? I was really confused because we're talking about Earth. And I wasn't thinking about the monoliths on the planet or any of that. It was much later I thought, oh, pillars, monoliths, and I kind of went, that's interesting. So I did inquire, and I have actually tried to inquire before when it first popped up. It's something he's not being very revealing about. It's like, well, I'll tell you something, in a little while. It's kind of like, it's not coming through real well. So finally, I really said, I don't want to pressure you. After all, you're the big honcho, and I'm just the little scribe. But couldn't you please give me some information on this, because now I've got these pillars activating on Mars. And, you know, is there any connection? He said, yes, there is a connection. He said, and it's an unusual story, and I'm not going to tell it to you.
It's a great, fascinating, unusual story, which you will not be hearing about.
Not right now, anyway.
Not
The
right
only thing
now.
I know, the only thing that he kind of hinted at was that it was a collaboration between the order that between a certain group of people on the earth and the ultra beings. So these things were not made on a starship, but they were made with the help of entities, you know, cosmic entities.
Right.
That's all he's telling me, who these people are, how they made them, how they got them up there, if the ships didn't plop them down there. You know, I don't know the story, at least at this time, but he did say there was a correlation, and that these made monoliths, because they say they have rivets in them and everything, these made monoliths are created from like a template that is going to help the signals come in, the signals from the pillars in some way. You know, that sounds rather loose because I don't know the exact details, but somehow it's working with the pillars. But more than anything, oh, I forgot. The other thing he said was, more than anything, or part of the reason is that he wants humanity to look at them. He said they want to perk our imaginations and say, oh, what's this? Oh, pillars. Oh, 2001. They want that energy circulating. It doesn't mean that they're vacuous and they don't have any other purpose. They do have, but they're not some highly sophisticated, developed, you know, internally created object. It's not that kind of a thing. If you were to take them apart, you would probably be disappointed. But if you were to look at the 9010 cube sitting on my desk over there that does incredible things, you'd go, this works. It's just a plastic box with a few bars on it, you know? So it has its purpose, in other words. Yes.
Right. Wow. Okay, well, the video you're all watching, if you're not watching it live, is titled, now I actually haven't shared with you the title that came in that I would like to call it, but I have a feeling you'll like it, which is, of course, Thoth's message for 2021, a star is born.
Ah, I love it.
I had a feeling you would.
Yeah, that's snappy, Michael. That's really good.
Coming in behind me here. There we go.
And there's a star coming right over your head.
Yeah, God, my aura is continually blinding even me. That's just the sun. That's the Colorado sun back there, folks. No strange phenomena here. So, and the fact that, you know, Thoth wanted you to make this a Christmas message. No, don't wait till New Year's. Get it out on Christmas. Well, of course, the Christmas star, the recent conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter.
Yeah, which is part of it.
Yeah.
That was very much a part of the frequency that was needed to do what this happens next. Yeah.
Right. And then, you know, in terms of the crystal star being born, being something that we can all tune into to raise our consciousness, because ultimately this is about the planetary genius of Earth, of Gaia, being brought forward and preserved and passed on into a new iteration of the Earth, of the new Earth star as you have received it. Mm-hmm. That is, that activational aspect of the star is, I mean, it reminds me of the yogic perspective on the Star of Bethlehem, which is the wise men followed the star in the east to the birth of the Christ child. Well, the wise men were coming from the east. They were heading west. They were not seeing a star in the east. They're coming from wherever you think they came from. I believe it was India. But in terms of the cosmic directions of the body, as you know, the microcosm, as above, so below, east is understood to be here. This is the star they were following, is the star of Christ consciousness, the spiritual eye, the Kutastha Chaitanya. at at the pineal chakra here. And so that is, the star that if we tune into it and vibrate with it and ask the classic and best prayer of all, which is thy will be done, we can raise our vibration and
Yes.
get around the corner, turn that corner to, and of course now, you got the mystical effect coming in again.
And there you are.
As the star, he made the light appear. Anyway, with that, we are now going to share with you the activational video that Reverend Maia has created on Thoth's message for 2021. And so I encourage everybody to just let your YouTube conditioned, modern fast editing conditioned receptivity, just take a breath and let the activational nature of this video, which runs about 30 minutes, sharing Thoth's message, and then the diving into the new crystal star that Maia will do with sharing writings from 2012 that are now coming forward. So with that, we will share with you the video now. Please enjoy, and we'll be right back with you to explore together.
I received the following from Thoth on the white crystal star in 2012. The vibrational name for the star which shall be birthed from Rigel is Anba Nur, meaning house of the white or shining crystal. In order to truly understand both the cosmic and the spiritual birthing of this star, I relate to you the following. The worlds of Rigel exist within their sun and do not orbit around it as planets.
They are planets, in a manner of speaking, but not as you know such spheres in your reality. This means that they are not exposed to entropy, thus are not within the zone of elemental combustion. This allows them to exist within a star sun. Inhabitants of the worlds of Rigel do not look out upon their horizon and see molten plasma. They see beautiful aurora plains of colored vapor interspersed by dark regions containing brilliant stars. They have an environment and day and night. How can this be? This condition is caused by the planet's vibrational attunement to space. I will not discourse on the science of this occurrence, as it would be lengthy. Rather, I say to you that it is so. Space, and thus the cosmos, can be tuned in like a television program, and this attunement is determined by the vibrational zone in which that world is existing. When their star sun, Rigel, erupts in solar storms, their internal worlds are impervious to the violent action. It is noticed only in the changing of colors and contours of the vaporous light clouds. Thus, when the white crystal star is born from Rigel, the effect to its worlds will be enlightening rather than devastating. When we say that a star is being birthed from another star, this is not something understood by scientists of your world. They can view the results of this occurrence when the light of its happening reaches their telescopes dimly, but they do not understand what they are seeing. The star giving birth does not rip open and spill out another star. Instead, the mother star changes the spin of its magnetofield, and out of that long strands, light years in length, of dark matter, invisible particles come spiraling out. These strands then are drawn together in the birthing field the mother has created, and will eventually form another star, which will contain an encoding that links it to its mother. The child star, then, is a new dimensional place from the intelligence of the mother star, yet it has its own signature as well. It is in this way that every star, every one in the universe, is related to a complex family tree through branching signatures of light. Yet of the unimaginable number of stars in this universe, all of them have a root signature from among only 20 codes. These codes can be loosely identified in the Mayan glyphs. Yet the root signature is only the beginning, the watermark of the entire codex of one star. Using the Mayan glyphs as a starting point, Anbanur, house of the white crystal star, is identified with the glyph of Ben. And now, as Maya, I say, in the Mayan oracle by Ariel Spilsbury and Michael Brenner, the glyph of Ben is given the qualities of fluid reference points, time-space traveler, skywalker, angelic messenger, pillars of heaven, courage, new directions, mysterious journeys, and compassion. The symbols are quartz, crystal flight, and heart chakra. After I was shown this glyph to be a corollary with Anbanur, I then happened to glance at the bottom of one page on Ben in the Mayan oracle, where I read that the affirmation is, "I am a pillar of the invisible heaven that brings heaven to earth." I found this line especially appropriate in reflecting the nature of the whole Orion dynamic. My question to Thoth: when will the birthing of Anbanur take place? And Thoth responds, the beginning of this cosmic event begins in your 2013. However, it will take millions of years for this star to form. Yet, one need look outside the box of linear time as it relates to Earth. Just as the new Earth star exists now to all who place themselves within its stream, so does Anbanur. Then I ask, how does the white crystal star relate to Earth and its new Earth hologram? And Thoth replies, it contains the seed program for its mother, Rigel, taking it to the full spectrum as a creational matrix for the new Earth star. This new Earth does exist within Rigel. However, the white crystal star is the determining code star for the entire evolution of Rigel as a host for the new Earth. Yet know this, the new Earth dynamic is only one part of a much larger evolutionary picture for the entire cosmic system of Orion. I might add here, outside of this article that I wrote, when we're speaking of Orion, we're speaking of a threshold. And even though Earth is not inside Orion yet, all the cosmos, as we see it from our holographic imaging, is connected to Orion as the gateway. And so now I continue with the article, and I am saying in this article, after coming to this place in the transmission, I open the Keys of Enoch by J.J. Hertog, and my eyes fall on 307:15:20. In this section of the key, it is explained that the light program for the current old Earth is symbolically represented by the right hand, while the future program is seen as coming forth from the left hand. To continue with this article, based on Thoth's transmissions here in 2012, he then starts speaking about certain hand art and how the hands relate to the, actually it brings us around again to the white crystal star. And I'm choosing to include this in this video because all of this addresses, very importantly, the year 2021. I know it doesn't seem to address it, but indeed it does. So let us continue with this. Ubanu is the hand art which called one to their sacred path and gave them protection along their journey. The Ubanu is the life picture of the soul in its incarnational journey, a roadmap of symbols to relate to the lines of the palms, as read likened unto a star map. Thoth now shows me how the palms of the hands, including the fingerprints, contain the star signatures of the unique Merkaba paths of each incarnated being. Merkaba paths are pathways of the soul in its journey through being, both in the physical and non-physical. In the transmission concerning the birthing star and the Ubanu handprint symbology, Thoth relates that the Ubanu was originally practiced at what we know as Machu Pichu in the Andes of Peru. Thoth states, where at that time it was the city temple of the Moonthorn with its chamber of the sun at the summit. The few priests were the sorcerers of the temple. This term is used not as a dark connotation, but to say that they worked with powerful earth magic. They kept the veils up to protect the priestess oracles, who were often abiding in trance state for weeks at a time. They manifested the power to ground the stellar harmonics, which the priestess oracles drew from the heavens. What Thoth refers to above as the chamber of the sun is called today the tomb of the kings. While they call it the tomb of the kings, 80% of the skeletal remains found there are of women. Beneath this chamber is the crystal sunstone of the returning Mamba, the ancestors of the stars. This sunstone was brought to the people by the Star Lords eons ago and energetically installed beneath the sun chamber, or rather the sun chamber was constructed on top of it. The sunstone is charged with the codes of the new star, the white crystal star, acting as a beacon to recalibrate our human DNA into sun-born creation. When those from among the people who were chosen came into the chamber at the right solar-lunar cycle and went through a solar initiation there, they would become sunborn, carrying the creation codes of the new heaven and earth. Thoth speaks. When the hands are placed together as in prayer, the star maps, light codes of old and new programs are brought together to trigger a path for completion within the neural circuitry of the brain, sending these signals into the DNA crystalline structure, which in turn creates new faces on its crystals. This process is part of the transformative mudra for creating the pure gem body. However, it is not simply enough to put one's hands together. That is only a synaptic action to proceed the complete mudra, or rather series of mudras, that can only be fully accomplished if the individual engaging it is ready in mind, body, and spirit for this activation. And now I say, in key 307-16 of the Keys of Enoch, the right hand is said to represent the Adam Kedmon blueprint of our earthly created form and program of evolution, the left hand opening the path to creation of the Christ race. I asked Thoth to address this, and he said, the Christ race is the complete engagement of the soul through the seven heavens, or states of universal progression, leading to the throne of Metatron, who is the gatekeeper to the Thoth'ic universe of non-duality. This is not a religious reference, i.e. Christian, but an acknowledgement that this race is consumed with the burning flame of the universal Christos. In essence, this Christ race becomes the house of the white crystal star. And I say, in key 307-19, it speaks of the 7 mansion worlds that have yet to be completed and released from their former limitations. Those reference to the 7 heavens are the actualized and completed states of the 7 mansions, or houses. The house of the white crystal star is the Christ star, which houses the Christ race. In 307-20 of the Keys of Enoch is stated, the 7 seals represent the 7 chakras that must be opened so that the souls may ascend. Thoth relates to me that as human beings on this earth begin to recalibrate their personal akasha, and the lesser akasha of the planet disintegrates, so souls will only have the greater akasha as their reference timeline, and their star maps will be completely opened to the new earth hologram of ascension. The actual lines in the palms of the hand will change. This is already beginning to happen, and eventually even the fingerprints will transform. And so let us look at the message again that Thoth has delivered for 2021. Not all of it is revealed to me in regard to interpretation. I think that this may either be forthcoming as the year evolves, like the other one was totally mysterious to me until it evolved into 2020. It was unimaginable to me, in fact. But with 2021, the message, there are some factors that I'm seeing unraveling here in regard to the white star and other things. And so, first let's look at the quickening of the 3 pillars on Mars, the 3 stars in the belt of Orion, and the 3 universes, which are the positive, negative, and neutral. I see a triggering response going on here. These 3 pillars on Mars, and I was able to Google and find some pictures of them. They're actually in photographs. These apparently are towers that are being reactivated to connect us in some specific way through what Thoth calls the gateway stars, which is the belt of Orion, which moves the whole energy pattern into the Orion, let's say, sacred sphere, a field or a dimension. The 3 universes, of course, Thoth speaks about quite a bit, being, the positive, the negative, and the neutral. And the neutral is an aspect or a gateway to the Thoth'S, which is the complete non-duality event within us, actually. So if we look at these pillars, as the pillars awaken on the dead planet, life will spring forth in a new heaven, preparing the way for the new earth. Well, how does this really affect us here on the planet in 2021? That's the big question, and that I can't answer. Not in 2020. We have to see how this unfolds. But obviously, it is a very powerful directing force that begins in the year 2021. Maybe not right as the clock strikes, but somewhere in that year. Yet the reality continues to be embraced by the mass consciousness on Earth that all is torn and trampled beneath a giant's gate. So it's not like we're all going to have incredible ahas and do the kumbaya. It's like, no, there's still stuff that is going to happen. But undercurrents of this event, this connection through the 3 pillars, is an important one. Then we look at the very last line, which is for those who listen to the signal of the light senders. And the light senders are sending their signals through these 3 pillars. Obviously, we're in contact with a lot of light senders. I mean, we're beings and spiritual beings and Thoth and, the Pleiades and all of these messages coming through. But he's speaking of a specific light senders that are coming through they're transmitting through these 3 pillars. Now, what dimension will these signals take? It's not necessarily that everybody's going to be channeling the light senders. It might be an entirely different kind of frequency than we're used to. Their path shall be one of victory for the soul. Many mansions will be made known to them through the mouthpiece of the white crystal star. Now, I must say to you that I did not remember that in the message, in the article and message given by Thoth in 2012, that mansions were mentioned. Actually, they're mentioned in the reference to the Hertok material that Thoth is saying is part of what he's speaking about. So, but I didn't remember that. So many mansions is very much tied to the white crystal star. So if we look at what I just read to you about the hand motions and the connection of this chamber of kings, which Thoth calls the white moon or the moon thorn, I believe it's the moon thorn, we see that chamber and these hand signals that he's speaking about, specific ones, I'm knowing that are linked to the white crystal star connection in 2021 to us here in our life, in our world of the old earth. See, we're moving through time portals here. We're changing timelines. We're gathering a collective consciousness that is not connected even to timelines. It's beyond that. And if we bring them into the crystalline timelines that are forming in our DNA, that will present itself to our world consciousness. This is stepping beyond the limitations that have been set upon us by the archonic sheath that is pressing down on our natural expanding skull, not only our physical skulls, but that of the planetary sheath. We are breaking through, and the white crystal star, the Christic star, is the keynote that will help us do that. And it begins in 2021. I am just now receiving from Thoth that on June 23rd, 2021, someone or someones will be within the Moonthorn chamber at Machu Picchu. And they will be connecting to and eliciting certain frequencies through the hand mudras that connect on a very deep level within the human spectrum of the DNA. Now that's saying a lot. That one person or several people will be able to do this. So they may not be people. They may be star beings or inner earth beings that have a higher connection, shall we say. And obviously this one thing is not, oh, this is it, this is how it happens, and we all receive the white crystal star dynamics. No, but it's a very important event in the whole spectrum of it. It is a trigger, and it is something that is necessary to insert as a human element within that field. And so as I say, a human element, it would have to be either a surface earth person or an inner earth person, because in the inner earth they are related to us. They are the migrators from the surface, even though they have a lot more star genetics than we do. So this is what I'm receiving now. It may flesh in more later, it may not. But there is someone who is very related to humanity that is going to be in that chamber at that time and initiating the right star signals that connect or help to connect the white crystal star to this reality. Because, of course, it's not on this timeline. It hasn't been created yet. It's just in its very first stages. But we are accessing it through the help with the light senders. We are accessing it in its full-blown state. I am seeing that whoever is in the chamber at the time is actually connecting also with star beings in Merkabas above that area, and also through the Hierophi connection within the inner earth. This would mean, and I'm seeing that it is so, that our Quantum Cube Logica project with the 9010 cube that is connecting to the Hierophi in the inner earth does play a role in this. What role, how much of a role, I do not know yet at this time. So remember, when the year unfolds and there are challenges, unique challenges, and there will be, what is underlying this year? For those who listen to the signal of the light senders, their path shall be one of victory for the soul. Many mansions will be made known to them through the mouthpiece of the white crystal star. So keep the signal before you.
right, welcome back. So while you were watching, Maya and I were just talking about the central importance in terms of what's unfolding in 2021 of this event that you describe is taking place at Machu Picchu on June 23rd of 2021, that there will be a activating ritual or ceremony performed by one particular person, possibly
One or several. It could be
one or
several.
several,
Yeah.
who will be in that place on that date, June 23rd. And Maya, you were just saying that you don't know of any particular significance intrinsically to that date, right?
Yeah, that was the date that was very strongly given me. No question about it. Yeah.
Okay, well, just as a little sidelight, it happens to be Midsummer's Eve, the traditional, and of course, the summer solstice will have just happened, but traditionally, Midsummer's Day was June 24th, which is the feast of Saint John the Baptist in the Catholic calendar, who is the patron saint of the Freemasons. So, I mean, in their understanding, that's not a Catholic thing. And that date of June 24th, 624, right? The number 624 is also a powerful mystical number. It's connected to the keys of Enoch. It's connected to the work of Dr. John Dee. And it also holds the key to the decoding of the Shakespearean codes, particularly with what our dear friend Alan Green has brought forward with the Holy Trinity solution, as it's called, because Dr. John Dee used the 624 as the essential key that unlocks a lot of his cryptography, which he used not only in the service of Queen Elizabeth I as one of her principal spy masters. His code number, all of her spies, Queen Elizabeth's spies had a code number by which they would communicate. They didn't sign their names. And Dr. John Dee's code number as a spy for the Queen was 007. He is the original 007.
Yeah, yeah.
And Ian Fleming, in creating James Bond, that's a little side tribute to John Dee. And so there's a whole other amazing story. We've had Alan join us, and we'll have him join us again, because once you dive down that rabbit hole of the sacred geometry encoded in the cover of the 1609 edition of the Sonnets, and it has everything from the exact longitude and latitude of the Great Pyramid of Giza to within an accuracy of like 300 feet before longitude was even known, speed of light, before the speed of light was known. It's a fair mind bender. But 624, I just bring this up because 623, I mean, Midsummer Night's Dream, right? Shakespeare, that this is the eve of a midsummer, this date that has come to you as being the day when a pivotal event of some kind, having to do with the crystal star, having to do with this whole unfolding dynamic of 2021.
Yes.
And the central importance, when we talk about, what's a connecting thread of all these things that Maya has been sharing in terms of, excuse me, in terms of the New Earth star, Ascension, this phenomenon that many are tuning into, trying to understand what does it really mean. That there is, in my understanding, Maya, and I'd be very glad for you to comment on this. Excuse me while I cough for a moment. It's clearing my throat. A little bit more coffee from my grandmother's china. That the connecting thread, of the sort of rescue, you might call it, of the planetary genius of Gaia as needing to be protected, brought forward into the new iteration. Now for me personally, I just want to share my perspective on it briefly. The predictions of the end of the world are something that pretty much every generation, and maybe every other generation, believes it is in the ultimate or the penultimate generation on Earth before the end times. I mean, pretty much, you go right back to human history, and there's always somebody going, the world is about to end. Well, we're probably more justified than previous generations, right, in believing that. But, the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda have been my guiding light for a good part of my life, most of my life at this point. And he said about the end of the world, he said that the constituent atoms held together as the idea in the mind of God of this planet will only be released and dissolve when all of the souls on this planet either become completely good or completely evil. That is the only time when the world soul just, God releases her will at all. However, there are a number of occasions when a partial dissolution and rebirth occurs. Mm-hmm. And it's just funny, it's one of those things, this was not Yogananda's central focus. He was bringing Kriya Yoga, a golden age technique of working with the energies in the spine to quicken our spiritual evolution, to experience direct communion with God. That was his focus. But he just sort of says, I mean, there's so many things in his writings where he'll just go, oh, and by the way, yeah. So there's these partial dissolutions.
That's what Thoth does. He does by the ways, and I go, oh, what? What did you say? He does that too. Really. So
yeah, I mentioned in a previous program we were talking about the inner Earth, right? Mm-hmm. And Yogananda is talking about Atlantis and the fall of Atlantis, and he says, well, at that time there were 88 million souls on the surface of the Earth. It doesn't say 88 million souls in the world. It says on the surface. And just why the surface? Anyway, make of it what you will. So with that, I'd love to hear from you. Your thoughts on, first of all, what you see happening at Machu Picchu on that date, June 23rd. Any possible correlation that might be coming in for you now, as we're speaking about this 624 midsummer thing. Mm-hmm. And particularly this idea of the central unifying theme of rescuing the planetary genius, which, well, I'll let you share again with what that is, what the planetary genius is, why we should care, and what the Ascension dynamic means in regard to it.
All right. I'm going to have to take care of the cat again, Michael. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
What are you doing over here?
I'm going to leave this part in, Maya, because it's so darn cute. So Maya has 3 cats. There is Nemo, who's like the kitten. And then there's the other 2 whose names I keep forgetting. But they're mystical, playful creatures who, of course, will like
is the one playing with
there we go. There's Nemo. Yes. And Nemo has apparently gotten into a box and is making a lot of distracting noises here in the middle of Blue Star Rising. The Templar awakening has woken up the cat.
Okay, I'm coming.
Okay, here she comes. And we're back.
Usually he just sits back here. You've seen him many times. But today he's decided he has a little piece of plastic and he's taking it to each different box. He's thinking, let's see what kind of sound it makes in here. And then he picks it up and his little mouth goes to another box, plops it in there. And then he dances around in there. Oh, that's a nice sound. He's doing his sonic tuning.
Of course, it's a cosmic cat who only has cosmic recreation. All
Okay.
right. So, we're going to talk about the planetary genius and the meaning of what's going to happen on June 23rd at Machu Picchu.
Right. So first I wanted to say that before we started this, Thoth had me create a template for the white crystal star to put in the cube. Remember, I keep telling you we're going to do this cube show. I didn't think we were going to do this one now, and I said it was the next one. Well, it really is after the first of the year. We're going to do on the quantum cubologica. Anyway, so I have right over there on the stream, on the line of the stream, the 9010 box, which is connected to the Hierophant cube in the inner earth. And now I have the template of the white crystal star in there, and he had me place, it's an 8-pointed star, well, in the geometry, that we're using. And he had me place my shungite, no, it's not white, but he wanted that one, the shungite 8-pointed Merkaba on top of that. So that's what's broadcasting and streaming right now as we're doing this video, and it's going to be in the recording, the energy of it. So I just wanted to share that because that's sort of a signal that's going out right now. So I don't know exactly, I don't know very much at all about what's going to take place inside the chamber of the sun, which I kept calling the chamber of the thorn or something, but no, that's the moon thorn is what he calls the whole complex of Machu Picchu. And the chamber of the sun is the chamber within underneath the tower, which I think is significant. I know the tower's all broken down and everything, but it's a tower, like the towers on Mars, but I do know that it has to do with the sacred hand geometry and correlating with signals that are sent through the pillars of Mars by the light senders. And this somehow is part of the bringing into the field of the genetic consciousness, because the genetic system has a consciousness that is connected to the greater genetica of the cosmos, that Thoth calls it. So somehow that's going to be the triggering signal. Obviously, other things are going on, not just somebody standing in there doing that, but that is going to be, that trigger that's necessary to bring it all together. So that happens on that date. Now, I was not given a specific time for it. Maybe that will come later. It's not appearing to me right now, but, and I don't know how long it will take. Will it take just a few minutes? Will it take an hour? Will it take a day? I don't know. But once that occurs, we're plugged in to that new birthing star system. So, Rigel has been the commanding center of everything that's going on. It still is, even though there's many other things that are connected, many other star systems and everything, according to what I receive and have received since the 1970s. Rigel is that platform that the reason this earth was created as it is, the way it's been put together, so to speak, not the way we've trashed it, but the original form came from Rigel. So now with this birthing of this star, this is a higher field, a new development of consciousness coming out of Rigel. That has to affect us greatly. And it is going to, and it is probably already to a degree. But in 2021, when this signal is given between the person inside the chamber of the sun, Machu Picchu, with the pillars, the towers that the senders are sending the signals through, that's when the click is made. So I would say after June 23rd, some interesting things might be happening. Maybe not. I don't know how long it takes to spool up, and to really get going. But I think we're going to find, even leading up to that, but especially after June 23rd, some interesting new phenomena. Like we have the megaliths all over the place. That's going to be minor compared to, what I'm feeling that might be coming forth for us. How many people will see it? Is it going to be on the news? That they like to hide stuff, or not, but I think we will know about it some way.
Okay, well, as we look at this coming year, from here on December 24th, 2020, and of course here in the US, focus continues to be on the transition, the new administration coming in, the rumors that the current president is taking advice from people who want him to declare martial law, use the military to rerun elections and things like that. My own view is that there may well be some scattered, independent, non-centralized, non-coordinated, what you might call militia actions on behalf of the current administration. I'm not going to use his name. That that could be disruptive. However, I do expect the new administration to be inaugurated and to move forward. Now, personally, I've been trying to emphasize this to our friends who are getting caught up in the divisiveness that's taking place around people who have not just different perspectives, but different understandings of reality, different understandings of what is a fact and what is not. That we need to rise above this. It's got enormous divisive magnetism that's going on, and in order to be where the action really is on the level of consciousness, the lever to pull for change here isn't about who's sitting at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I mean, that's not unimportant. Obviously, there's a big energetic influence there. But that as we move forward into 2021, the old order is going to try to reestablish itself. It's gotten really rocked around in the last 4 years. They had this loose cannon that they couldn't control, and a lot of stuff being exposed. And now they're going to try to reestablish the old order, which is a very corrupt one, which is essentially a puppeteer arrangement, of puppeteers behind the puppeteers, and there's puppeteers behind those, and 99.9% of the people have no idea. So what's fascinating to me when we look at everything we're sharing here today in 2021, and you've got the driving dynamic goes poof and has disappeared, and these witless wandering soldiers of chaos have no general to guide them anymore, that there is a window for the light to come in, because there will be this attempt to clamp down, reimpose the old order, clamp down in terms of mandatory vaccinations, a sort of caste system of who gets privileges and who doesn't, who gets bank accounts and who doesn't, who gets COVID payments and who doesn't, who gets to fly and who doesn't, based on whether you're a good child and take your medicine. That this effort to impose central control will fail and will actually help accelerate the flowering of decentralized, solution-oriented dynamics of people helping each other. And this is what I see happening here where I live, where we live in Colorado. It's crossing political boundaries. Just here in this town, people on the right, people on the left, there's a food bank. It's not communism. It's just the town saying, hey, it's rough times. Some people are cold and hungry. Let's put aside some firewood and extra groceries, and people can come in once a week to the local market. And there's the food bank for, boxes of free food. And, so it's not, socialism, totalitarianism, Communist Party of China. No, it's just, hey, free enterprise is still alive and thriving. We're Americans, don't tread on me. And we're helping each other out. It's like pioneers. Oh, Abe Lincoln's father needs a new barn. Let's all go over and, 6 months later there's a new barn because we all pitch in. You know, so there's these kind of, you know, on the practical level, these are the effects of people on the high level of tuning in to this new star, this, you know, of tuning in here, of transcending our, you know, religious differences, and beginning to be Christ-like as best we can in the universal Christ, you know, that I think.
The Christ star, yes.
Yeah.
You know, this about the generals, you know, no having no generals, another aspect of this, which is related to what I was already saying, but this is the final piece in that, not final maybe, but another piece, is that, as Thoth had been saying for years, as we get closer to light principle 40, to the Ascension 40, or passage, he talks about the lesser Akasha, the greater Akasha, and the supra Akasha. We can forget about the supra Akasha right now because we ain't anywhere near that. But the higher Akasha is where we all go when we have greater thoughts, when we have, you know, where our higher self is really speaking to us. That's connecting us through the greater Akasha. The lesser Akasha is, you know, whereas I put my car keys, and, you know, I always do things this way, so I'm going to continue to do them that way. I don't like so-and-so, so I'm not going to like so-and-so tomorrow if I didn't like so-and-so today. You know, all those things, they're all packed into the lower Akasha. When we reach beyond that, we get into the greater Akasha. So he said for years, I mean, way back, that when we, you know, we're starting into it, the lesser Akasha is breaking up. And it's going to completely disappear sometime in the not too distant future. What does that mean for us? Well, if we're just relying on memory to get us through, we're all going to be a bunch of zombies, because we're not going to know anything. You know, we can't. It's just, excuse me. It's like you know, Alzheimer's or something. You're gone. You know. But what happens is, for most people, is there's a graceful transition. Because we're spiritual beings, and we're working to be better spiritual beings. We're all, you know, moving toward that light. And so when the lesser breaks, the greater fills in, you know. And hey, haven't we all had those moments? Not just us older ones, but even the younger ones, like, God, I'm missing something here. You know, oh, I hope I'm okay. Because, you know, there's a switch, there's little glitches, you know, as this adjusts. And so what about the people who are not making the adjustments, who are dwelling in the archonic investiture? There's no room in that archonic investiture to turn loose of the lesser Akasha, because that's where it dwells. So that's another problematic aspect of this. So and that's why, just one last piece here, and that's why some people, you know, they'll say, well, I can't understand it. I've known this person in politics for many, many, many years. You know, one politician speak, and he's never acted like this. It's just like another different person. Why is he acting like this? And oh, well, because he doesn't want this to happen. And no. Those are the surface reasons. His identity is breaking down in the lesser, so the archonic influence is just grabbing him and putting him in a little corner over there where they can manipulate that person. So that's a part of it. But as it finally breaks down, you know, there's not going to be any Indian chiefs in that field, and it's just going to completely go.
So at that point, the archonic influence plays itself out and dwindles, and finally just, you know, is kind of kicked out, or, you know,
yeah.
It just, well, so the people whose lower Akasha is beginning to disintegrate, and they're not able to access the higher Akasha, which, as I've heard you explain it before, it's like, my memory seems to be fading. Where did I put the keys? Except, wait a second, I'm experiencing that I know what I need to know when I need to know it.
Yes, that's the part I meant to mention. The higher Akasha is not memory. The higher Akasha is knowing, instant knowing. So it knows where you kept the keys. So you're not going to lose that part of your experience, but you have to learn how to use it, or you have to, you know, just, there's an adjustment period. where you
Right.
learn how to use knowing instead of memory, you know.
Right. And of course,
Yeah.
memory is, one of the key intellectual evolutionary achievements of mankind, without which, we would just be, on the level of the animals who go by instinct and not having accumulated the wisdom of elders, piling on top of the wisdom of the previous elders and evolving and, all of that. So it feels so central, of course, to what it means to be human.
Yes.
And to be able to move into some new understanding of the usefulness of memory, of the essential role of memory. It's a mystery, but I guess we'll know about that when we need to know it.
Well, the memory is the development of humanity, but knowing is the presence of God.
Okay, that's
So,
really good.
yeah, I can't take credit. I just got it. I
Good.
just received it. Yeah,
Memory is the record of humanity, but knowing
is the presence of God.
is the presence of God.
And that's where we belong. It's okay. We did well with memory. It's a good, useful tool, and we've developed very well with it. But we've also stored away some really bad stuff in memories, and they trigger in us repetition of those not useful half-light experiences. We've done it this way. Our ancestors did it this way, so we're going to do it this way. If we didn't have the memory of that, we'd be born, a little baby, yes, I know subconsciously it's got connections to past lives and whatever, but really when it's born, it's going, mommy. And that's basically it. How beautiful. Don't we just love little baby kittens, animals, but also baby humans, because they're just so fresh and they don't have all that memory. And then it starts glomming in, and then they start connecting to the lower akasha. And here we go, the lesser akasha, I'd like to say. And not that the lesser akasha is bad or evil. It's just lesser. And we don't, lesser means that we have problems with it. It's not complete. Like the light, like the orotronic versus the metatronic. Orotronic is half light, metatronic is full light. So the lesser akasha is orotronic, the greater akasha is metatronic. And the super akasha, whoa, that's where Thoth goes. But I don't even know very much about that.
Right. Well, as we look at 2021 coming and what we're talking about, the witless ants wandering here and there, because the governing dynamic is gone, and they just are running their old programs until they wander witless feebly and die. The process of that, in terms of how it's going to play out in a day-to-day experience, is that there's going to be a lot of people who just aren't able to deal, aren't able to integrate, are losing, in the higher energies coming in, are losing access to their go-to framework, paradigm, memories. There's a lot of instability and craziness that will very likely play out. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes. And even, the personalities, the ones that were already a little wonky are just getting really, really crazy. But there's people that were just barely holding on, but they had their own selfish interests. They thought of nothing else. But, the present, I'm going to make this money. I'm going to create this power. I'm going to create these connections so they can have more money and more power and da, 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 da. Those people who had pretty good upstairs, they're just focused on that, are starting to lose it. They're starting to get really unstable. And you can see that in certain personalities on the air. And then, of course, the ones that were already crazy, they're just,
Right, totally around the bend. Yeah.
So we're going to have more and more crazy people trying to control things. And that's not a good thought, but we have to remember, if we tune out, if we switch the station or tune it to the higher frequency, it's not that we don't still can keep track of what's going on. We have to do that. But if we tune it to that higher frequency, we're bringing in this streaming of energy. And, we can say a large part of it is going to start being from the crystal white star and its dynamic through the light centers, but on other planes and other realities as well. We're tuning in the dial and we're saying, come forth, come forth. We need this assistance, and we need it now. And we're not calling on beings, although beings will be attendant to it. We're calling on the dynamics of spirit itself that beats and pulses within us. And that is what Thoth is speaking about here. And he's saying that in 2021, because of what's taking place with the white crystal star and probably some other things too, it's more potent right now to do so. It's like, if you're going to do it, let's do it now, you know. So that is the message, bigger than anything. So yeah, he can't promise us that, you know, everything's going to be just wonderful in 2021. No, we're going down a path. It's a process. You have to purge before you can be cleansed inside. You know, that's just how it is. And we're going through a purging process. But in the interim, our soul spirit energy can compel us to bring grace to the picture. And it's not going to wipe away everything, but it's going to give us a graceful platform in which we can continue to operate for spirit and not get all, you know, subsumed by the chaos that's going on below us. I say below, not less, but, you know, like we're on a platform. I see it almost like, you know, a platform, and we're up there doing what we can do for the whole of humanity, not just for us by any means. But while we're on that platform, you know, stuff's going to be churning below us, and we're going to try to help as much of that as we can without diving in. We have to stay above the chaos. And that's what 2021 is initiating with a white crystal star and with other aspects of all of that, to allow us to be above that scene. Even though we're imperfect beings, and there's part of us that has that little archonic pull that wants to kind of dive down in there, duke it out. It's like, no, we have to stay on this platform of light for everyone's sake, not just ours, for the planet, for Mother Gaia, so that we can have a graceful platform for retrieval of the planetary genius to take it into World System 2 when that is ready to happen. And we can't wait till the last minute. We have to create that platform now.
Right, and just to remind us all of what the planetary genius is, you know, it is that living pattern of blueprint of everything on the higher level of the true, the beautiful, the good that Gaia, through herself, through the wonders of nature, and through her children, that's us, of all that has been created of music and art and poetry and love and heroism and courage and everything that brings a tear to your eye and seeing an amazing story. You know, Mozart and Beethoven and the Vedas and Shakespeare and Calvin and Hobbes, you know, everything that is gathered that is actually there within the heart of Gaia as a reality that can be brought forward and cherished and preserved and brought into a new reality, and that is dependent upon what we do right now with what Maya is describing, of tuning in to this grace that is coming in.
Yes.
And that particularly that, you know, that you're sharing this at Christmas, I think is, as you say, you just felt this strong message that it needed to be at Christmas. That, you know, Yogananda's wonderful 2-volume commentary on the Gospels, The Second Coming of Christ, as the subtitle, The Resurrection of the Christ Within You. You know, that is under our power, our free will, to tune into that Christ light. And that's the turning point, not only for Gaia, of course, but for each of us, you know, as souls. And so, yeah, it's quite the message here on Christmas Eve.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
And you know, thank God we still have means of communication. And I believe that the internet is going to, you know, the ability to communicate like we do now, which is so precious to us at this time, with all its problems and other stuff. they keep saying, well, you know, oh, it's going to go away. We're not going to have any internet anymore. We'll be in the dark. Yeah, that's a worst case scenario. But I really, really, every time I hear that, it's like, no, the Interlight network is going to keep us going as long as we need it, and we need it. And right now, we aren't entirely telepathic beings, and we can't manifest ourselves in each other's living room germ-free. So, you know, I think we're going to be able, we're being given as much as they can give us within the vibrational spectrum in which we are operating. We lift the vibration, they can give us more. They're not holding back because we've been bad children. They're trying to work with us here, but it's a vibrational system. And we have to lift the vibration and they can give us more. Lift the vibration, more help can come in. That's science, you know?
Right. And just to touch again on what Maia's referring to here, the inner light network. You know, we talk about the archangelic realm, we talk about ultra ETs, we talk about the devas and the elementals and, you know, the high beings, you know, and those are all real. And there are, you know, collaborations between these realms to help us and everything in our free will realm down here. The inner light network are folks like you and me walking around in bodies here. And there's an inner circle of 25 who are the leaders. And this is, you know, oh, you hear about the dark glamour of the dark faction and, you know, it's the Illuminati or, oh, it's this secret society or that. And the reality is there is no monolithic top-down dark faction secret society, as is the nature of those who are totally about the gratification of the self. They're fighting with each other. There's factions fighting with each other. But they like to promote this dark glamour of this supposed all-controlling faction. Well, the reality is that there is a counterposing brotherhood of light. There's a counter, which, you know, because they are not based on gratification of self, but rather service to the good of all, they're cooperating with each other, not fighting each other. And that they too are infiltrated, you might say, into the upper levels of government and politics and finance and agriculture and the Defense Department and the war machine and all the rest of it. You know, there are the members of the Inner Light Network who are also working together, staying several steps ahead of the dark faction's plans. And that, you know, you who are listening to this, who are watching with us, are very likely part of that network yourselves. You know, who the inner 25 are, nobody knows. Obviously, except they themselves. We don't know. That would be dangerous information for us to have. But I think I can assure you, well, I can tell you anyway that I'm intellectually convinced that this is an extremely high likelihood that this inner light network exists. Yeah. And that they are doing this work that Maia is describing, and that they are working with all these other realms of the angelic, the archangelic, the ultra ETs, and with us folks down here, the boots on the ground doing our part. It sounds like you wanted to share something, Maia?
Oh, yeah. Well, the way Thoth presents it to me is that the ultras, the inner earth, they're part of the inner light network too. So you've got the humans and people like us, you know, you and me and everybody watching. Then you have the 25 who are far more enlightened, and, you know, and the 25 are directly in connection, in contact with the certain ultras and the certain inner earthers that, you know, are helping them, supplying them with information, needed information they need. So in a way, the inner light network is all of these. So it gets a little confusing because I say, well, folks, you need to give me some categories. So he said, okay, well, there's the 25. That's the core. Those are the ones that are connected and know, and they're working with the ultras that are really, in a sense, part of the inner light network because they're, you know, operating within it. So it's a big system. But without the boots on the ground, without the 25, and then without all of us around the 25, it wouldn't be much of an operation. You know, I mean, that's what makes it what it is. that it can connect to the earth, to what's going on here with the human element connected to it.
Right. And, as 2021 proceeds, and some of you may be watching this after New Year's, we're here on Christmas Eve. And, more is being revealed on a daily basis as we, proceed into this year. I'm a storyteller, and so I see the power of story, how intrinsic it is to our understanding of ourselves and what's happening. The media, the corporate media, is trying to sell us the usual story of fear, and the old pattern that the controlling elite have fairly successfully over the years, less so now, tried to implement is create chaos and have the solution to impose. Create enough fear so that you can impose the solution of greater control for them, fewer rights for us, and greater ability for them to implement their just natural perspective of service for self-gratification. That's their deal, right? At the cost of humanity. So the story they're going to sell us as, the fear of COVID and fear of chaos, and just be good children, take your medicine, and all shall be well. And oh, by the way, things have gotten so bad, it's time for a great reset. And we're just going to rain down abundance upon all you good children with it might be, a new asset-backed currency system, and all kinds, you'll all be getting checks in the mail. Be wary of this story.
Exactly.
Very wary of this story.
Because that story plays out of the mouth of the new guard, the rainbows, he calls them sometimes.
Yeah, the new guard is probably a better phrase now, I think.
The new guard. And they are the ones that are planning to take over, and, as soon as the old guard drops the hat. And they're largely composed of ones that were in the old guard, but there's some other factors. We won't get into that right now. Anyway, their plan is to, sunshine and rainbows, get you all over on this corner, but we're going to give you some of the same stuff. It's just going to be in a different.
Right, and we've shared this analogy before that, there's the old guard is the 1984 version, and I mean Orwell's novel, of terrified, oppressed cattle being led to slaughter. The new guard's version is, we're doing away with those, we're exposing those nasty, dark factions with the Luciferian, pedophilia rings and all the rest of it. Now we're a new currency system, and you can even have GMO-free food, and I'll just make sure to take your nice medicine and the vaccines and the rest of it. But it's what you might call the Brave New World, Aldous Huxley novel, dystopia of fat, happy cattle being led to slaughter, being deprived of our connection to the divine, simply because that's what works for their system and values and perspective, right? So which story are we going to tell ourselves? Well, we're going to rise above either one of those stories.
Exactly.
To the story of our own inner divinity and the intrinsic beauty and value of compassion and love and empathy and the spirit of Ubuntu, which is the African spirit of making sure that all are cared for. Well, it's no impingement on our freedom, still go be whatever we want, do whatever we want, it's not harming others. That's where our humanity is the golden rule. It's in every religion and every culture. And that's the story, as Tyrion Lannister says in the final episode of Game of Thrones, there's nothing more powerful than a good story. No enemy can defeat it, nothing can stop it. And so that's what we're sharing here with you on Blue Star Rising. It's the greatest story ever told.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's this one thing that just fascinates me. I don't know if fascinates the right word, puzzles me, and so will not give me an interpretation, which means that something has to play out, and I can't, talk about it beforehand, I guess. But this really I'm just going to go back to it here. The doers of evil and their following from among all races and belief systems will come to a standstill as if frozen in time. But this moment will pass. They will then emerge as a chaotic army with no general to lead them on the field. What is this? You know, this, oh my gosh, now he's on top of the altar. But anyway, ponder that for a moment while I go get the cat off the altar.
All right. Well, I will share a little bit this brings to mind.
Okay.
While Reverend Maia rescues her altar from the depredations of her cat. So this moment in time, you know, of the army of the dark being momentarily frozen. Well, that sounds like to me like the reaction to some, what you might call a black swan event, you know, one of those completely unexpected, except in the mind of God, out of the blue, shocking events that completely pulls the rug out from under the existing structure. And yeah, there's a moment of paralysis, and then, you know, all Hades breaks loose.
Yeah,
Something
could be, yeah. Your guess is as good as mine, but it sounds good to me. I mean, not good, but I mean, it sounds like it could be something like that. Yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
you know, we'll see, or maybe we won't see, but it's interesting anyway. So we've explored a lot of this here, and, you know, so as usual, just the video insert will be, the link to it will be below. So if you just want to watch that again or portions of that, you will have that to explore. And anything else we want to say here before we conclude?
Well, let's see. Here on Christmas Eve. Of all good
Maybe
days
Merry Christmas. That would be a good one. But you'll probably, you know, those of you see it after Christmas, it will. Anyway, Christmas is in the heart, isn't it? Forever.
Well, it's like of all good days in the year on Christmas Eve. That's a quote from Dickens, from A Christmas Carol. And I'm being reminded, see if I can remember it, the final paragraph of the book of A Christmas Carol, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the transformed Ebenezer Scrooge, you know, Dickens says, Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more. He became as good a friend, as good a man, as good a master as the good old city ever knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. He had no further intercourse with spirits, but lived upon the total abstinence principle ever afterward. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that truly be said of us and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, and say it with me, won't you? God bless us, everyone, and Merry Christmas to us all. All right, a blissful new year and a wonderful 2021. And we'll see you all next year. Bye for now.
Bye.